So my first question, a lot of people have answered this question, who is Willie Nelson? So now I get to ask you, who is Willie Nelson?
Well, he changes all the time. It's hard to pin him down.
So many of the songs that you've recorded, they go back to the Tin Pan Alley.
Mhm.
What are some of the songs you remember hearing around the house growing up?
Oh, Stardust, Moonlight in Vermont, San Antonio Rose. I mean, the radio stations played everything back in those days. And nowadays you got a country station and a pop station. But the radio stations that I listened to mostly back in those days played everything. So I was lucky enough to hear it.
You've written several books now, including this most recent one,
Mm-hmm.
Roll Me Up and Smoke Me When I Die.
Yeah.
What's the one book that's made the most influence on your life?
Oh, I don't know that they make any kind of influence at all. You know, they come and go. You hear about it, you forget about them, and then another one comes along. I kind of like this one. It's funny, and I don't know what kind of influence it'll have, if anything.
Now, you met your wife on a movie set.
Yeah.
What about movies as far as your own personal taste? What's the one movie you've seen maybe 5 times, 6 times?
Of someone else's movies?
Yeah, any movie.
Oh.
Really?
Oh, I don't know. I always liked Duel in the Sun, with Gregory Peck. Remember that one? And High Noon. A lot of those old westerns. One Eye Jack with Marlon Brando. I'm kind of stuck on those old cowboy movies.
I was listening to the radio and on Michael Feinstein's show.
Mm-hmm.
He was talking about Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, Crazy sounds like it could have been written in the 30s. It sounds like a Tin Pan Alley American songbook classic. Do you use those old songs as kind of a blueprint?
Oh, I think everything that we hear will show up in our writing somewhere. I'm sure I was influenced by a lot of that stuff in practically everything I write. And, I never did think it was a bad influence to be influenced by, people like Irving Berlin and guys like Hank Williams. I was always glad to be associated with those guys.
There's a book by a great songwriter, Marshall Chapman,
Mm-hmm.
and it's called They Came to Nashville. And she writes in there about going on the bus with you, and she even wrote a song recently called Riding with Willie. And there's a lyric in there that really struck me, and it says, Bobby and Willie play music all night. Sister and brother, what a beautiful sight. Songs long forgotten, now seeing the light. That's the way I like it. I wanted you to tell us about Bobby. And do you all play a lot just for fun on the bus?
We do. We're always working up new music and thinking about what we're going to play next. And she has a little keyboard in the back, and we do a lot of playing and going up and down the highway.
You've also done a lot of duets from the country, like Waylon Jennings, the great Ray Price, and then Latin artists like Julio Iglesias, but then other people, Bob Dylan, Paul Simon, Ray Charles. Living or dead, if you were to be able to do a duet with anyone, who would it be?
Oh, I don't know. I've said 100 times that I'd like to do one with Barbra Streisand, and I just did one with her, so I got that one done. Engelbert Humperdinck asked me to do a song with him, so I probably will.
Hey, not bad.
Not bad, yeah.
What about instrumentalists? You did the Wynton Marsalis album not too long ago. If you could do any performance with another instrumentalist, who would you do?
Well, my favorite guitar player always will be Django Reinhardt, and I've listened to his music practically all my life, and he's my favorite guitar player. So I know we'll never get to play in this lifetime together, but maybe one day.
Well, that reminds me of the album you put out. This was the year of my birth, 1981. Of course, I didn't listen to it then, but the Over the Rainbow album.
Somewhere Over the Rainbow, yeah.
And the guitar styling is kind of like Django on that record.
Thank you.
What do you think about when you play Over the Rainbow?
Oh, I haven't played it in a long time. I'd probably think about something entirely different today. But it's a great song, and I enjoy playing those old classics.
Something about a lot of the songs you've recorded, You've recorded a lot of songs that mention trains. There's Railroad Lady, and you did City of New Orleans by Steve Goodman, and then you did, of course, Fast Train to Georgia, which is the state we're in now. What do you think the significance is of train songs in not just country music, because there's like Midnight Train to Georgia. It's been a popular thing for songwriters.
I don't know. I think there's something about a train whistle in the middle of the night. You remember that as a kid growing up. We grew up around trains and railroad tracks, and I think they have a big influence on you.
You're touring right now with Lucas Nelson. I had the opportunity to interview him, and you recorded some of his songs.
Oh, yeah.
What's it like to record your son's work?
Well, it's really gratifying, and you're glad to be a part of it, especially when it's good. And he's a great writer.
I've heard rumors from Buddy Cannon about a forthcoming Willie Nelson record. Is there any truth?
There's Face the Music and Dance is coming out in, I think, March or April. And then after that, we're working on a To All the Girls album that I'm doing with Barbra Streisand and Dolly Parton and Loretta Lynn and Roseanne Cash and Emmylou Harris, just a whole bunch of really good singers. Shelby Lynn.
You're known as being a great songwriter, inductee of the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame, the Songwriters Hall of Fame, but you play homage to a lot of great writers like Paul Simon. You record their work. Who do you think the best songwriter is?
Well, it's a matter of opinion, I guess. I think there's a lot of great songs. Irving Berlin was a great songwriter. He wrote Face the Music, White Christmas, God Bless America. It's hard to beat those. Of course, then Hank Williams again wrote a lot of great songs. Vern Gosdin was a great writer.
What do you think about Jimmy Webb as a writer?
Jimmy Webb was a good writer.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did some of his songs.
Of course, you recorded Rainbow Connection with Paul Williams.
Yeah.
What do you think about Paul Williams as a writer?
Well, he's a good writer. Yeah, he's an entertainer, writer. He's very good. Yeah.
What is the best thing about being Willie Nelson?
Well, I don't know. I'm a pretty lucky guy, to have get a nice bus to travel in. We get to play music. There's really not a lot of negatives involved here, so it's a lot of fun being me right now.
What's it like living in Maui? I know your neighbors.
Oh, it's horrible.
It looks like nice work if you can get it.
Yeah, it's great. I've been over there about 30 years now, off and on, and Maui's a great island. A lot of nice people there, have a lot of fun hanging out, playing games, poker, dominoes, chess with all my buddies over there.
I wanted to ask you about Paul English for a little bit. You wrote the song Me and Paul. What's it like all these years playing with him still?
Well, it's good to have a good friend watching your back every night, for 50 years, and that's pretty much, Paul and I have been together a long time. He's not only a good friend, good musician, but he's there when I need him.
I have two final questions. If you could have any meal in the world, like if you could say, this is what I want right now, and you were hungry, what would that meal be?
Depends on where I was. If I was in Austin, I'd kind of like to go to the Broken Spoke and eat a chicken fried steak, because that's hard to beat,
My last question, this is going to be on the radio, but then we're also filming it, and with the internet being the way it is, it's amazing how things travel. If you could say anything to all the people who are listening or watching, just anything at all, what would you say?
Oh, well, I'd probably fuck it up. I'd just rather go ahead and let people think what they think. I don't like to tell people what to think. I don't like for people to tell me what to think.
Well, Mr. Nelson, it's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you. My pleasure.